Hello everyone and welcome to the program. This is Sunday Politics live on Channels Television. I'm Sean Kimbaloya, Channels Television's global headquarters in Lagos. Nigeria is no doubt facing a huge insecurity challenges from the northeastern region to some parts of the north where we're seeing high rate of crime and insecurity. There are issues of banditry and kidnapping. Over 1,000 people, the police said, have been killed in just the first quarter of 2019. And as a year has turned, a lot of issues have come onto the table. We're very much familiar with the issues of Boko Haram, which some people have said thousands of people have been recorded dead in that region of the country. But we have some issues of insecurity on our hands on a large scale. Boko Haram on one hand, kidnapping on another hand, banditry, cultism, cattle rustling. These are some of the issues that this man who is going to be getting a second term in office come May 29 will be hoping that he's able to tackle and bring to a conclusive end. Also, there are a lot of issues that are on the table, and we want you also to be part of the conversation right here on Channels Television. Get the agenda set with what we are doing right here on Channels Television. Hashtag what Buhari must do, second term agenda at CTV, at Channels TV, and at CTV Politics. And let us hear your opinion on some of the major issues that are on the front burner in the nation. Tonight, we're setting an agenda for President Muhammadu Buhari and his team for a second term. We understand that there are plans for a cabinet reshuffle. We understand that new people might come on board. Who are these people? But first and foremost, let us rate this man and how his team has performed and his political party, the APC, in the last 4 years, based on some of the cardinal points that the party promised: security, anti-corruption, economy. How have they fared? How would you rate the Buhari government on the security? Very good, fair, or poor? How would you rate his government on anti-corruption and the economy? And then we're looking at the second term agenda. What is on the table? What is on the offing? In the offing, the next level is being promised by the president and his team. There's a legal challenge in front of the president against the mandate that he's been given. This men are saying that they're not happy with the mandate that he's gotten. And a lot of issues, a lot of people think that will be on the mind of President Muhammadu Buhari. So that's the reason why we need to set agenda. What do the people of Nigeria want this man to do for them? Federal cabinet, who are the people you want to see there? Second time responsibility, a whole lot. Security, economy, and several other issues. Politics of the National Assembly, who becomes the leader in the Senate and the House of Representatives. The issues of the economy, how can food get on the table of the average man on the street, and how can our economy be better? The issues of the election tribunal will be also on his mind. But in all, one thing that is important is how he's fared his first time and what he should be doing in the second time. And that's why we want you to talk to us. Let's get talking tonight on the issues of security and how this nation can be kept together. I have my panel already seated. One from our Lagos studio, a retired military officer, Colonel Hassan Stanlabo, a security consultant. Thank you so much for coming on tonight. And also from our Abuja studio is a former chairman of the National Human Rights Commission, a lawyer and a civil rights activist, Professor Odinkalu. He joins us from our Abuja studio. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for coming on tonight. Let me begin with Professor Odinkalu, with what you have seen so far in the last 4 years or so of President Buhari in the saddle. Looking at 2019 and beyond, the 4 years mandate that he has gotten, what are your hopes and what is your assessment of this government?
Thank you, Sean. Good evening. My hope is that this time around, hopefully, the president will be both president and presiding. Because for the first term, for the first 4 years, my view is that the president was absent. He was neither president nor presiding, and lots of things went wrong. There were no consequences for malfeasance and non-performance. The cabinet, he did not even have time to replace members of the cabinet who are not there. The Constitution requires that every state of the Federation should have at least one person from the state in cabinet. As we speak, many states don't have anybody in cabinet. They've not been replaced for a long time. And it took over 1 year to replace the minister who died from Kogi State, for instance. And the minister from Ogun State who left has not been replaced. Ekiti State governor has gone off to elections, not been replaced. I could go on. Now, all of that is evidence, in my view, of a presidency that was neither president nor presiding. That needs to change. There need to be consequences for non-performance. We have a situation in which Nigerians are being killed in droves, in the thousands, and all the people who run the security agencies that are responsible for protecting the Nigerians who are being killed, none of them has paid any price or consequence. And the idea that you don't have to perform, therefore, under the government is real. That needs to change. And the president needs to develop emotional intelligence. I know that may be difficult at his age, but it seems to me that a president needs to connect with his people at the level of the guts and feeling. And the idea that a president can spend 4 years and only address one news conference with the people is unacceptable. And the Nigerians only hear him when he's out of the country. So several things need to get to the next level, to use the expression of the campaign of the president. That's my view.
For a moment, before we go into the nitty-gritty of some of the issues surrounding security and killings in some parts of the country, let's break some issues down. Some of the criticism that have come from the opposition is that they're saying, well, perform on some of the things that you have promised in the first term in office, security, anti-corruption, and the issues of the economy. Don't go to the next level. You have not taken us beyond the level where you met us. Those are some of the criticism coming from the main opposition party. From your own point of view, is that correct?
I'm not here to speak for the main opposition party. I have never carried a party card in my life, but I carry a voter's card. And I'm sure that they're well capable of speaking for themselves if they choose to do so. For me, everything proceeds from this premise that the president has not been present or presiding. In 2015, we had a security crisis in the Northeast, and I think some credit should go to the administration. When it began in 2015, there appeared to be a sense of mission to try and address the situation in the Northeast, and up to a point that was addressed. But by 2017, it's fair to say, the situation had plateaued and in many places regressed. And instead of addressing the reality, we started propagandizing and getting people to believe what the government wanted them to believe rather than the reality that they were living. And then from having a security situation in only one geopolitical zone in northern Nigeria, there's been a metastasis to every geopolitical zone in northern Nigeria. So you've got the bandit problem in the northwest, you've got the violent herdsmen, killer herdsmen crisis in the north central, and the north of Nigeria all of a sudden has become a place where insecurity has become incredibly awful. I mean, the fact that people now have to have helicopters protect train journeys from Abuja to Kaduna is itself evidence of this. And I don't think it's good enough to say, well, we are trying. It seems to me consequences have got to follow. If Nigerians are, the Inspector General of Police just said that 1,069 Nigerians were killed in the first quarter and 685 abducted. And nobody's paying a price for that. As we speak in the second quarter, some of the figures I'm seeing suggest there have been more killings in the first 1.5 months of the second quarter than there were in all of the first quarter. Nobody's paying a price for that. That becomes difficult to persuade people that you're making progress on your promise on security. And that's just the cardinal promise of the president, because people trusted him as a general. If he's not making headway on that, where is he going to make the headway on economy?
If you are going to speak to specifics now, if you are setting agenda for this government in terms of security, and as he assumes office after the inauguration on the 29th of May, where do you suppose that it should start from?
Change the service chiefs. Absolutely. That's number one. It seems to me the service chiefs have got to go, because quite clearly they have tried, they've done their best, it is not good enough. So why don't we try a new set of service chiefs and see whether they can do something better? And you can see, for instance, the acting Inspector General of Police appears to be different. Certainly different from his predecessor. He's making an effort. He's communicating with Nigerians better. He's not giving fake news and numbers where Nigerians need to hear facts and figures. He's making an effort. He's trying to take responsibility. Nobody is perfect. Nigerians are not asking for miracles. Nigerians are just asking for public officers who are going to make a decent effort at trying to turn the country around. And maybe if we can get other service chiefs in the joint services, perhaps they come in with a new zest, and let's see what can happen. But to have this situation is not acceptable. Second area is just allow for some flowering of civic energies. Nigerians have never been as divided as we are now. And the president can offer a different way of communicating with Nigerians to bring Nigerians together. At the civic level, I don't know, you probably have followed the movement for a National Day of Mourning on the 28th of May, which is the day before the inauguration on the 29th, because Nigerians are saying we are sick and tired of the killings. We are sick and tired of the deaths and being divided by being killed. Today it is Zamfara, tomorrow it's Akwa Ibom, the next day is Rivers, the next day is Borno and Yobe and Lagos and Imo and Anambra. We are tired of being killed, and Benue and Plateau. We are tired of being killed like that, as if we are not one people. And of course, Southern Kaduna, who will forget Southern Kaduna? So why don't we mourn our laws, everybody together? And that is an appeal for government to show empathy, to show that the killings of Nigerians and the death of Nigerians all over the country matters to us. Our president will issue condolences to French people, to Americans, to Sri Lankans, to Algerians, to everybody who has died, but no condolences to Nigerians. So Nigerians need to be encouraged to share empathy with one another and narratives in this situation of grief. That's the second thing the president can do. It's not going to cost any money. Just show you're human, and the killing of Nigerians does matter to you. It doesn't cost anything. There is a third thing. Allow our institutions to grow organically. This mess of the situation with the Chief Justice and the judiciary is just not good enough. Whatever the allegations may be, due process does matter. And encouraging the lynching of people whom we don't like, the judicial lynching of people whom we don't like, just does not make sense. And convincing anybody that you can procure the suspension of the Chief Justice with an ex parte order by a Code of Conduct tribunal controlled by the executive just means the judiciary has been decapitated. Building it up to fight corruption properly will be very difficult.
Let me quickly take you on this. This is perhaps legal, and I would like to also get your view on what has become a major constitutional issue for Nigerians in terms of what a lot of people think, that we are not a nation just yet, and that we need some form of reorganization as a people. So let me begin with the issues of Democracy Day, which the government says, look, the May 29 inauguration will just be a low-key celebration, but June 12 is a new Democracy Day. We understand that the lawmakers are also making efforts to make that become concrete and cast as law. So how does this come to you? May 29, June 12, Democracy Day, May 29. It does look like that is cast in law. June 12, Democracy Day. What does this mean, Professor Odinkalu?
Look, there is already a law that regulates the designation of public holidays, and the federal government, through the ministry, the Interior Minister, can designate any date as public holidays. That is within the powers of government. However, whether you designate any day as Democracy Day, the tenure of government is 4 years from the date of inauguration. That means it is difficult to change 29th of May, because if you change it, you're adding more than 1 day to the tenure of government that was sworn in on the 29th of May 2015. That's going to be difficult. Because once you do that, Nigerians suspect you of extending your tenure, of tazarche, of something that is unlawful. So 29th of May is it, and that's what's going to happen. Whether you then call a party on the 12th of June, on the 30th of May, or on the day of the Eid, or on Easter Sunday, that is not anybody's problem. It's, well, as I said, government has got the power to designate a Democracy Day. That is, you know, they choose to do that. The legislature acquiesces in that. That's fine. But handover day remains 29th of May, quite clearly.
Well, June 12, what does it mean to you? Honoring the MKO Abiola, perhaps the election, they say, is one of the fairest and the freest election in Nigeria's history. And remembering MKO Abiola as the man who was said to have won that election, government recognizing it now as Democracy Day that day. What does that mean to you? And is it right in that sense that Abiola be picked out and be a symbolic representation of our democracy?
Shehu, I honestly think, you see I've been chuckling. I honestly think you're asking the wrong person. The reason is really actually quite simple. I was born on 12th of June. So if you're asking me what 12th of June means to me, it's my birthday. But that's not the point. And, you know, I remember 12th of June 1993 quite clearly. I do think what happened on the 12th of June, on the 22nd of June, the election took place on the 12th of June, but the nullification actually took place on the 22nd of June by a handwritten press release issued by Ndokwirabo, who was the spokesperson to Admiral Aikomu, who was then Chief of Defense Staff, Chief of General Staff. That's actually the story. But so I think it is important that we honor our history and honor people who have sacrificed for a country, for the building of our country. I've got no problems with designating 12th of June as Democracy Day. It's got nothing to do with the day I was born. The fact is something major did happen on the 12th of June. It's not really, for me, that it was in urban legend now described as the freest and fairest election that's open to argument. It is actually, for me, the significance of the 12th of June 1993 was that was the day that Nigeria came of age. It was rather a moment in our history in which Nigerians across the board, north, south, east, west, decided being Nigerian was more important than our respective small identities, Christian, Muslim, north, south, east, west, that kind of thing. And that sense of unity has not been recaptured since then. The urgency of that moment, I think, is worth emblematizing. And so if we celebrate it, I don't think it is too much to ask.
Professor, as it stands right now, a lot of people have said, look, we will keep facing some of the problems that we're facing if we do not fix the fundamentals of some of our problems. A lot of people have said we have a very badly structured polity, a very badly structured constitution, which is perhaps at the genesis of some of the problems that we're facing. For President Buhari, and he has said that true federalism is a necessity at this time in our political and democratic life. For you, what would you be saying to President Buhari in this regard? Constitutionalism and the rule of law.
Well, Shane, if you remember, on the 27th, I believe, of August last year, the president, laid down his doctrine that national security is above the rule of law. And really, which in my view is a very authoritarian philosophy, because it does not, it basically places him as the arbiter of people, and particularly his court, not necessarily him. Nigerians like to talk about cabals, but it places a cabal around him as the final arbiter of whenever there is this so-called tension between national security and the rule of law. The problem is that when you do that, you actually undermine the rule of law and undermine national security, because you undermine institutions that should stabilize the political system. I am not one to talk about true federalism, because every federalism is different. South Sudan is different from Sudan, which is different from Pakistan, which is different from Belgium or Canada or the United States or India or Nigeria. Federalisms, or indeed Ethiopia, federalisms differ from place to place. There is nothing like true federalism in my view, and President Buhari is a rather late and tame convert to that notion. I don't think he believes in it to begin with. The problem in my view is that our federalism is unbalanced, and it needs to be rebalanced. It was not always like this. Military rule made it so. In 1968, the nature of the federalism was changed in the middle of a civil war. And we now have a constitution in which you've got 68 items on the exclusive legislative list and only 30 items on the concurrent legislative list. And a lot of the things on the exclusive legislative list, labor and productivity. Why should labor and productivity be on exclusive legislative list and not concurrent when you look at it? And so you have a situation in which you have a minimum wage that does not respond to disparities in living standards or cost of living. So you pay somebody living in Abuja 30,000, you pay somebody living in Lagos 30,000, Zamfara 30,000, Imo 30,000, Cross River 30,000. It doesn't make sense, because costs of living vary across these places, and it should be possible to decentralize that without necessarily causing a problem. But what you're doing in effect is driving up unemployment, or could be driving up unemployment in one place and not the other. Of course, that also means that we need to pay politicians the same way. You cannot have a situation in which a politician in Zamfara is the same thing as a politician in Abuja and a politician in Lagos. So labor should be costed according to the cost at source, not by some unweighted average. Now, so if we rebalanced our federalism that way, we'll deal with this problem of so-called true federalism. I frankly don't understand what it means, but I do know that we cannot continue to sustain 68 items on the exclusive legislative list and 30 items on the concurrent legislative list.
Professor Odinkalu,
and yet have a situation in which Lagos State, for instance, is borrowing money to do Murtala Mohammed Express Road from Oshodi to the Murtala Mohammed Airport in Lagos, which belongs to the federal government.
Many thanks, Professor Odinkalu. But before you go, I have 30 seconds with you, and in that 30 seconds, I want you to do this for me. I want you to rate, just as Nigerians also are doing the same, they're talking to us about what they want President Buhari to do and what they think should be fixed right now. If you are to rate President Buhari, Professor Odinkalu, on security, very good being the highest, fair being the midpoint, poor being the lowest, how would you rate him?
I will not do it on TV, on national TV, and I would rather wait for him to finish his second term, and we'll do that.
No, he has the first term, and he's going to end in another few days. I have the check box here, but if you will, I would like to tick the box based on your assessment. If that's up to you, Prof.
I wish him good luck, because Nigeria needs a government that is successful.
Thank you, Professor, for talking to us on the program tonight.
You're welcome.